the writer and the wit, aka Brandy Ford, and today I'm pretty excited because I'm talking to humorist, motivational speaker, comedian, author, stand-up coach at Second City, and radio host Judy Croon. Hello, how are you today?
Hey, good, Brandy. How are you?
I'm good. It's a beautiful day out there. The sun is shining, so it's all good.
That's the main thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mark Matthews connected us because he has his big fundraiser coming up, Komedy for Kidneys, and you are one of the performers for the event. So I was just wondering if you could tell me a little bit about the event.
Well, the event, Mark has done this now a number of years in the Niagara region, and it's for a really, really great cause, Komedy for Kidneys, and I was honored to be invited. April 6th, it's the Thursday night before Good Friday, and I'm going to be joined by some very fellow funny people. For ticket prices, ticket reservations, more information, folks can go to the website gregfruintheater.com. And Mark's a real advocate for this cause, and he did ask me to do it this year, and I was honored to say yes.
Yeah, and this is great because all of the money that's raised goes to dialysis units right in the Niagara region, so it stays here. And actually, a couple of the places there is now a plaque honoring Rodney Pentland. So it's pretty amazing. He works so hard. Mark works so hard on this every year.
Really good guy, really good fundraiser. He's a very good comic himself and a very good business person. And so I knew that we were all in good hands in terms of this particular fundraiser.
Yeah, exactly. And you do fundraising yourself, like you are heavily involved in charity work and helping the community out, and you just had one recently. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. That one was called Komedy for a Cause, and I volunteer for a local group here in Toronto that helps Toronto's homeless and needy. And I suppose, like Mark, we have our full-time job. So my full-time job is I'm Canada's keynote humorist. I do a lot of corporate gigs, bringing humor into the workplace, fighting stress with humor, especially during times of COVID. But what the comedy allows me to do is to raise money. And I was very fortunate to be surrounded by good friends as well as good people who were able to donate their time, donate their efforts, network with their friends. And we raised money for City Street Outreach one night, just doing an evening of comedy here in Toronto. And there's a lot of fundraisers out there for sure. And, when you're able to, for example, so with my keynotes, I can charge corporations full fee for what I do, but then that allows me to have the extra time, to donate time to City Street Outreach, but also donate time and donate comedic efforts to great fundraisers like Mark's fundraiser in the Niagara region, which I was very happy, like I said, to be part of.
Yeah, and you mentioned, so you are a humorist, like motivational speaker, using humor. So just explain a little bit how important humor can be to motivate people and to help people get through times and difficult times.
Absolutely. Well, my main keynote workshop is called Relieving Work-Related Stress with Humor. And I think it really sort of was put to the test with COVID, like everybody else, like everybody in speaking and in entertainment, gigs have been cut down by like 85-90%. What that allowed speakers to do, allowed me to do, was present virtually. And whether, I've been speaking in front of a live audience, I've been speaking in person, or I've been speaking virtually, because there's a number of clients that still are using virtual platforms. But just the importance of, I basically say, when we laugh, we relax. When we relax, we learn. And the pillars that I've sort of built my keynote on are the importance of positive attitude, perseverance, forgiveness, faith, dealing with people who aren't as perfect as us, healthy physical and mental activity, and the importance of friends. And I think all of those things are really put to the test, like I said, during COVID, but under the umbrella of humor. Like, humor has been incredibly important in my life. It's given me some great gifts. But just when we laugh, we feel better. It's a cardiac, it's a workout for our body. And again, when we laugh, we relax, we learn. And when we're laughing, we actually use our right, bright, creative brain. That's not only for singing and dancing and doing stand-up comedy, but it's also for innovation. We're more creative, we're more innovative, and that kind of keeps us ahead of the pack. So, from teachers and doctors to real estate agents, everybody should be using more of their right, bright, creative brain, because it's just a piece of real estate that just doesn't get enough use. And humor is one of the quickest ways to get there. So yeah, I've been really blessed in my life to be able to help others using humor.
Yeah, and like you said, like humor, like there's nothing like that really good belly ache laugh that you get when you're with someone. And it's contagious. Laughter is contagious too. Like, if you've ever been with someone, like I've had it where you're not supposed, like you're not in a situation where you're supposed to laugh, like or a place, and then it's like you get that look from your friend and you just can't stop laughing, like, and it just, you know what I mean? It's just
right, exactly. And I encourage, so it's also a lazy workout for that reason. If you laugh for 2 minutes solid of belly laughter, that's equivalent to doing like 20 minutes worth of sit-ups. So why wouldn't you take the lazy way and, watch Chris Rock on Netflix, or watch whoever, or just laughing with a friend, somebody who makes you smile, somebody who makes you laugh. And I have a podcast called Laugh Long and Prosper, and I spoke to a professor in the States who has written a book about the importance of humor in politics. And she went through history and said, look, these people were very serious politicians, but they also used their humor to raise people from some pretty dire circumstances. And she went on to mention Abraham Lincoln, Winston Churchill during the Second World War, to today's people like Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, who all have wicked senses of humor. Mm-hmm. And it's their way of sort of disarming the enemy, or disarming the not interested, the uninterested. It's a fantastic resource.
Yeah, it is. And I was reading on your website today too, because I saw in there, like, to be able to get into your family, there's some levels that they have to pass, and one, and I loved it, like, because level 1 was they have to be able to, like, laugh at a joke or at themselves, right? And
that's right. So right now I have my 2 sisters, they each have a son and a daughter, and the 2 sons, the 2 daughters they're all single. So my sisters and I had very funny parents, and which is, again, another example of why humor is so important. My dad grew up during the Second World War. He basically spent most of his childhood underneath the basement stairs with, like, kitchen pots over. His family was kitchen pots over their heads because their neighborhood got bombed so badly.
Oh, wow.
By the Germans. My mom grew up in Guyana, South America, where there was and still is a lot of poverty. But in both cases, my grandparents would do their utmost to make the kids laugh, to use either storytelling or use games, use humor to make the kids laugh. And as a result, my parents grew up very funny people. So my sisters and I grew up to have this kind of wacky sense of humor. So now the next generation, as they're dating, mm-hmm. my sisters and I are like, oh boy, who's coming home with so-and-so? Who's coming home with, I hope they're funny, for the levels of laughter. Yes, if you can laugh at a joke or you can laugh at yourself, okay, level 1, you're in with the family. Level 2, if you can not only laugh, but if you can tag a joke, if you can make a joke better, if you can add another component to the joke, okay, level 2, you're in, boom. Level 3 is the final test, and if you can do full contact charades, then you're in, because charades in our family is pretty can get pretty violent, but we laugh a lot, and more importantly, we laugh at ourselves. And that's how humor has played a huge role in our lives, continues to play a huge role in our lives.
Yeah, it's so important. And I love it because you say in there that the person could be a mass murderer, but if they have a sense of humor, they're still in. So.
They could be an embezzler, but hey,
yeah.
can they tag a joke? They're in.
Exactly. And it's funny though, because when I was reading it, the reason I was laughing so hard is because I always say that too. Like people can come up to me and be like, "Oh my God, like I love your eyes," or "You're so smart." But if they say to me, if they laugh at something that I say, or they have a good banter, I'm like, "Oh, really? Tell me more."
Exactly, right? Like when someone laughs at something that you say, it's like bonus. That's the ultimate compliment.
Exactly. I love having a banter with somebody. Like there's nothing like it. Like it's just amazing. Like to be able to joke with someone is so important. It's
for sure.
And like you were saying, like especially when there's serious subjects and like people need that relief. And like I even did a eulogy, and when I did that, like for my grandmother, and you put humor in it, and it was, the room needed it. You know, you need to have that humor, like it, to just get through things. And
it kind of just, it relieves the tension, it relieves the sadness. I did a eulogy for both of my parents in the last couple of years, and I remember at my mom's funeral, the funeral director, who's a really serious guy, came up to me afterwards. He goes, "Oh, that was the best funeral I've ever been to." He goes, "I was laughing so much." And I'm like, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad the funeral director had a good time. Like, you know, but people feel that energy. And you know what? In laughing, they feel that love. And I think that's why we gravitate towards laughter as well, because it's a way of showing love, you know. It's a way of showing love without being too mushy or too feely. It just gives us that great feeling.
Yeah, and there's like a bond. There's a bond when you like share a laugh with somebody, or you get a joke with somebody. Like I can remember who I was watching certain movies just because when they were like so funny, or you're at a comedy show and you're with someone and you both get that joke and you're like those inside jokes and stuff. Like it's amazing, that feeling.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that, because what we remember in life, it's like our minds are like photo albums. And to your point, I can think of at least 3 or 4 times that in my mind, I remember looking over at the person I went to the movie with, or, you know, I remember sitting at the family Christmas table and somebody said something, or this one time my sister made me laugh, and my dad was kind of, you know, he was mad at us at the time, but she made me laugh. And I had a mouthful of chocolate pudding and ended up on the wall behind my father's head, you know? And
yeah.
I'll never forget that moment. It was totally worth being grounded for 3 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah, it's amazing. I love it. Like I'll start laughing somewhere and then people just look at me, oh, there she goes again, because I get the giggles, and it's just, you can't stop. You want it. You want to feel that, right?
Right. And, you know, there's a lot of negative stuff that's out there, but honestly, you know, statistically, more and more people are tuning into shows so more and more people are tuning out of the news. We have a lot of bad news out there, but, you know, negative news sells. There's a reason why Fox made over $1 billion last year, but statistically, more and more people are tuning into shows that deliver the news, but deliver the news with a sense of humor, like shows like Stephen Colbert, Canada's own Samantha Bee, Trevor Noah. They're all doing what the legends did before them. Letterman, Carson, you know, Leno. They're just taking a serious headline, but they're adding the punchline, and suddenly we can handle the truth. Suddenly we can sleep at night. And if we ever needed humor, if we ever needed real estate in our brain that isn't getting enough work, it's right now. Because, those headlines can be scary. But when we have somebody that delivers them with a sense of humor, we go, okay, you know, I can laugh at that. I never looked at it that way, right? So, it's whether it's war, whether it's poverty, whether it's financial meltdown, we need those leaders in the trenches to make us laugh, and this is what I was talking about with that professor. The thing is, when we activate that bright creative side of our brain, what ends up happening is we keep our stress hormones at bay. And as a result, we can keep moving forward. So the Winston Churchills of the world, so the Barack Obamas of the world, so those surgeons in the world, they can keep doing their job by either making light of the situation, making light of themselves, and they keep moving forward. There was a psychologist who went to Afghanistan, and he wanted to know how the doctors and nurses in Afghanistan, how could they possibly keep moving forward every day with the tragedies that they saw around them. But he noticed really quickly they would always be making a joke, and sometimes that humor would be really dark. It's almost like the worse the incident was, the darker the material was.
Yeah.
But it was their way of consciously or subconsciously being able to keep moving forward, being able to do the surgery, being able to mend those wounds, because otherwise you can become completely immobilized.
Exactly. It's like adding a little bit of light to the darkness, just to remind you that you can get out of the darkness. Like there is light, like you can get through it, like open up the curtain, and and it is so important. And especially and to be able to do like the fundraising, to use humor as the fundraiser, like how you do for yourself, the Komedy for kidneys, like it's a very serious subject, but people are coming together to support the causes and raise money and everything like that, but they're doing it in a way where there's a positive.
Where there's some lightness to it, like you said, where there's some lightness to it, right? And this came up at the last fundraiser that mentioned, the fundraiser that we did here in Toronto just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
My friend, who had actually helped to sponsor the event, came up to me afterwards and she said, "I can't tell you how many people said I needed to laugh. Thank you so much for laughing. I haven't laughed like that in 6 months." But, it sounds like you're a funny person. You like funny people. And maybe you're lucky like I am to be surrounded by funny people on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Or to find that lightness in the darkness. But there's people out there who, and I'm not in their shoes. There's reasons why they haven't laughed for 6 months. And God, if we can give them some sort of relief within, for those 6 months, just one fun evening, and at the same time raise some money, then that's totally win-win.
Exactly. And that's what people need. And and actually I've started past year been covering like the comedy scene here in Niagara and Hamilton and around, and and I'm actually on the show with you. I'm the up and comer. So
nice.
Yes.
Good. I can't wait to see your act. Good.
Yeah, I've just been started. So do you have any advice for going on the stage? Because
Absolutely. I mean, I guess my biggest piece of advice is always keep writing. So for my students that come to the Second City classes, or the students that I, coach privately, I always say to them that of your material that you write, you're probably only going to use 5% of that. So, just keep writing, find your voice, and don't overthink it. Just, do that subconscious train of writing, and find somebody to write with, somebody whose comedic point of view you respect. But also too, and I've heard so many comics say the exact same thing. They're like, God, when I do a joke in front of my family, they never laugh. When I do it in front of an audience, the audience always laughs.
Yeah.
If I do a joke in front of the audience that laughs, my family doesn't get it, right? So find somebody that's that medium ground, somebody that's not just going to be laughing at everything, but at the same time, too, isn't going to crush you because you're like, okay, that didn't even crack a smile. I'm just going to throw that bit that I worked on for 4 months. I'm just going to throw that out the window.
Yeah. I'm quitting comedy.
Right? Once you have that person, stick with that person.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to the banter I was talking about before. Like when you have that comedic banter with somebody, like that chemistry, the comedic chemistry is just like it's so amazing. Like it's the best thing in the world. That feeling where you can just know you can joke around with somebody and do that back and forth. Like
Well, and those teams make so much history and so much money in Hollywood. So a perfect example, sort of behind the scenes, I watched Somebody Feed Phil. I've been watching Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix. Phil Rosenthal, who is the producer of Everybody Loves Raymond. Mm-hmm. But right away, and I always loved Everybody Loves Raymond. I mistakenly thought it was based on Raymond's family, but it was actually based on Phil Rosenthal's family. They changed it from a Jewish family to an Italian family. And Phil was the producer. But right away, when you see how Phil works on his show, and it's a show like many other shows where they travel to these different places in the world, they taste the food, they tell people a little bit about the location or whatever. And, we've seen that format a million times, but what makes it different is Phil Rosenthal. It's interesting how even when you don't understand what people are saying, the way they look at him and the way he makes them laugh, even though he doesn't speak their language, the way he engages with them, and then when they have the subtitles on the screen, it's come up about 3 or 4 times during the series where people will say, "Oh my God, you get along so well with your crew. We love this crew. We love you." But he's so... I think it's also a symbol of generosity. He's so generous with his laughter. He's so generous with his personality that we're automatically drawn to that. It's pure joy. And you really, when you find that team, when you find those people that make you laugh, that challenge you, mm-hmm. Well, that's like, that's magic in a bottle. That's just fantastic because you've looked so long for that. So when you find it, hold on to it. All right. When you find those writing buddies that you totally respect and love, keep them because they're worth their weight in gold. Oh,
amazing. Yeah. And I like just even people in general, like I call them sunshine people. You can just tell because they radiate this sunshine and they project that out. And mm-hmm. I love it. I love talking to people and learning their story. And then once you can find their passion, sometimes people are like, "Oh, I don't have anything to say," and they're a little hesitant. Mm-hmm. But once you start talking to them and you get into it, and then they start talking about it, whether it's humor or comedy or baking cookies, like there's right. Something everybody has a passion about. And then once they get talking about it, they glow. Like it's just this it's beautiful. I love finding that moment when I'm talking to somebody.
Yeah. That moment where you see the veil flip, like they suddenly stop thinking about themselves. They're just thinking about the craft.
Yeah.
And that's gold. When you see that moment happen, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. And for you, it's obviously comedy. So, mm-hmm. or one of your avenues. And I just love that you were able to combine comedy with motivation, like in helping other people and then just the charity work and all of that as well. And like a lot of people don't do that. And I just I just wanted to say,
well, thank you. It's a process, but humor is the really great thing about humor too is such a big umbrella that it's willing to fit as many people, as many ideas underneath it. You just have to give it that opportunity, and you just have to have the patience to look for the punchline, have the patience to look for the connection between, because that's what comedy is. It's taking two ideas that don't seem like they have anything in common and finding that commonality. And that's what makes us laugh. And I've been really lucky in my life, not only to have terrific parents who showed that to me during the good times and the bad times, and having sisters who have that same sense of humor, but to find a career that allowed me to do what I love to do and I love laughing doing. So I'm lucky.
Yeah, and a hard work though too. So luck plays into it, but you have to really want it and go after it and believe in it as well too. And
definitely.
And I'm glad that you found that for yourself when a lot of people are too afraid to take that step, and so that's amazing. And
well, Brandy, if I could just interrupt you one more time.
No, interrupt me all you can.
This is the key for, I noticed so many students they come from all walks of life, but they come from professions where the common line is, I've never felt really alive doing what I'm doing. And suddenly they took a stand-up course or took a stand-up session or a stand-up class. And it doesn't mean, I'll tell you, like 97% of the people that take private lessons or take classes in stand-up comedy, it was never for that. It was just to help them find their passion. You know, it's just like when you're passionate about something, as you said, the veil disappears, the self-consciousness disappears, but that passion also allows us to open up to humor, you know, and I don't care if you're passionate about building lamps. There's people in my, you know, accountants, believe it or not, are some of the funniest people. They're not passionate about numbers, but in that dry way, talking about their profession, the humor comes out, and it's really neat to see that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, it's even like how I mentioned, like I started covering the comedy scene. I'm a writer. I just started going around to the comedy shows. And it was just like, it was like, it was something I was meant to do. Like, I can't even explain it. So then I was watching them all. I'm taking pictures. I'm talking to all the comedians. I'm just doing stories. And then, I don't know, my confidence grew, and it was just amazing. Yeah. And then this year I made this pledge to say F yeah to everything, to opportunities and stuff. And someone said, hey, do you want to do some stand-up? And I was like, yep, because I had just said that I was going to try everything. And so that was in January. And yeah, so I was just like, okay, wow, I can do this. I like this, you know, so it's so cool. It's just.
Well, I look forward to seeing your set. And don't be nervous. That's the other thing I tell my students. Here's the thing. You memorize your act like back and forth 1,000 times. And at least the worst case scenario is you go on automatic pilot. The audience would much rather see that than someone who just goes up there like, oh, I'm going to wing it. So if you memorize it, that is 90% of the game right there. If you have it in your head, no matter what happens up there, no one's going to throw you off your game.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the, something Mark Matthews said to me too, is to take a moment when you go out there and just take a moment and look out at everybody and just take a moment to breathe and appreciate that moment, like that you're doing this, that you're on a stage in front of these people. Like, just take a moment and really have fun with that. And
it's a privilege. Great advice. Terrific advice.
So I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Comedy for Kidneys, which is on April 6th. And it's the Rodney Pentland Memorial Benefit Show. And for people who want to get tickets or find out more information, they can go to gregfruintheater.com and and then that's where they can find out all the information. And I'm looking forward to sharing the stage with you. I'm so excited.
Me too, Brandy. I'm looking forward to sharing the stage with you, and let's make some money.
Yes, awesome. And everything. Where can people go and find out more information or get a hold of you?
Well, I always say to folks, if you don't have to want to reach out about a keynote event or, being coached for stand-up comedy or a podcast. That's great. If you do, fantastic. But if you have a piece of information that you think that I can use, if you have a favorite joke or a favorite quote, or you hear me review a book on my podcast and you go, that made me think of this book, that made me think of this movie, then by all means, it all funnels down into judycroon.com. So like I said, hit me up at judycroon.com. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions and share some material, share some humor.
Perfect. Awesome. And I checked out the website today, and like I said, I was cracking up reading it. So yeah, go check her out. And I look forward to seeing you soon. All right.
Thanks again, Brandy.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.